Okay, many of you have noticed I've taken the fake Koga Ryu and cyber harassment video down. The reason why I did that was I had mentioned someone's name. They didn't want their name mentioned. So since they asked me to take it down, I took it down. Uh, this is the new video. I'm going to talk about the same thing I did in the last video. This is very direct. In the first fake Koga Ryu video I did, I talked about how there's fake Koga Ninjutsu guys out there. And I talked about how Takamatsu's land is kind of bullshit, so a lot of the Bujin-con guys pretend to be Koga Ryu, pretend to start these groups that are Koga, whatever, or they'll move into one that's been set up or forum, whatever, and just badger and harass everyone until they leave the forum because they don't want any mention of Koga Ryu. The fact of the matter is, Koga Ryu is more prominent in Japan than it is in the States. And it's more prominent in Japan than what the Bujin-con is. Now, what I was talking about, however, which also seemed to irritate a lot of people, was the fact that the constant badgering and harassment by others had led to Dan Harmon committing suicide. That he had been pushed to kill himself. That he had been harassed and everything else. Now, I had mentioned before that me and Dan had gotten into an argument, that I had called him a fake, that I pointed out that he was copying Shooter Kim's material under the pretext of claiming it as his own style, and then declaring himself, a master. Here's the thing about it. Rank means nothing. That belt is not going to bestow any qualities upon you which you don't have within yourself. It's not going to make you courageous. It's not going to make you brave. It's not going to make you competent. It's not going to make you a good person. It's not going to make you wise or anything else. So all these little fortune cookie kung fu movie stereotypes of the martial arts master being some wise Zen-like person doesn't exist unless that person has those traits within themselves, or has developed those traits within themselves. Now, it's kind of funny, you see people like Don Rowley, I can't say that guy's name because he doesn't want his name mentioned. We'll just call him, Fat Felmore. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Or Voldemort. Of course, Barron Shepard pretending to run the Koga blog spot and, going into claiming to speak for the Koga styles and then they're bashing all these Koga styles, trying to push his own little Bujin-con lineage and everything else. And he has no training within the Koga system. It becomes this issue of whether or not grown adult men should be acting like juvenile delinquents, cyber stalking and abusing it and harassing people, especially those who might be mentally ill, especially encouraging them to kill themselves. Now I'm going to put up the same screenshots as before. I just blocked out the picture and the name of the person who made the statements. Now, as you can tell, you're talking about people using troll accounts, not using their real names, not even putting up a real picture of themselves, going out of their way to basically have something to hide behind so they can go out and harass others. And a lot of these people have been emboldened by Dan Harmon killing himself to go off and harass others. So it becomes an interesting thing, especially when you're talking about people with multiple troll accounts, pretending to be multiple different people, and then, this whole thing being addressed. The issue with ninjutsu is this, right? If you want to pop up and say you created some style all your own, and it's something that you created, and it's some Jendai, some modern system, that's fine. I really don't care. When you start making up some kind of bullshit tradition, then you start coming off in the same thing, which discredits the Bujin-con. Alright, the Bujin-con claims to be some Kōga-ryū system, some ancient traditional system, some pre-Edo era style. But the reality of the matter is, Takamatsu placed Toda Shinryuken's death 4 years before his birth in both the first and second edition of the Bugei-ryuha Daijiten, the big encyclopedia of martial arts. In Japan, which is where all the Bujin-kan guys look to, he claimed that Koga Ryu was the root of all ninjutsu, but yet his lineage included people that no one had ever heard of. So in the second edition, when he made an up-to-date lineage, he included the equivalent of Robin Hood and King Arthur, or the Japanese equivalent, actually, of Robin Hood and King Arthur in the lineage, and these are all fictional characters from folklore. The death issue wasn't changed until the third edition. So all this kind of comes into an interesting little thing, and plus his own friend. Now, one of his friends was working on the book, the big book of martial arts. So that's the only reason he got in there was because a friend of his was working on it. No one had ever heard of this guy, anything else. And you know, like I said, when you go to Japan, Seiko Fujita, Koga-ryū is more prevalent, is more known. In fact, in a 1985 interview with Shokasugi says that there were 13 styles that he knew of Koga Ninjutsu that was being taught in Japan. But he kept, sending people towards Hatsume because Hatsume was the only one that was open to the public. When you get into it, the Ninpo philosophy is nothing more than a renamed version of the Kuki family's Kinpo philosophy. The idea of facing danger, to know your limitations, and to understand your mortality, and to understand life by facing death, those kinds of things. And it becomes this interesting situation where you're having people on the internet harassing others because they're avoiding this philosophy. They're avoiding this life philosophy they're supposed to uphold. They're not even acting with the maturity of an adult, much less that people would accredit to being a master of martial arts. And these are people who are reputedly, 15th degree black belts that are acting like juvenile delinquents and children and hiding behind internet forums and troll names and, handles on the internet to aliases, if you will, to go out and attack people. And even as you've seen, it was mentioned by someone that this had been going on, that he had warned them about this when you look at the screenshots. So it becomes an interesting question as to the, the maturity level as well as the level of competence as not only as martial artists but as human beings of these people. And it's really easy to see where this cycle of harassment begins and ends, and it keeps progressing. Alright, I made this a lot shorter than the other one. I tried to kind of rush through just to hurry up and get it out here. Again, to the unnamed individual whose name I put out there the first time, quite sorry. All you had to do was ask, and I took it down. So, you're welcome.